everyone, my name is Richard Miles and it is an absolutely beautiful day. It didn't start out this way, it's a little cloudy, but now look at the sun. I mean, the Lord is strong right now. Whew. I don't want to point my phone in the direction of the sun because I don't want to ruin the little pixels, whatever you want to call it. But here I am. I'm dressed a little bit more for the fall, you know, and that's okay. All right, now let's get to business here. I always wanted to make a video about my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She passed away last year. She was 95 years old. And she was from Germany. She was born in Germany, immigrated to Canada, Niagara Falls, Ontario, and had 5 beautiful children. I'm dedicating this video to my grandmothers because the other day I met a woman that looked so much like my grandmother and just reminded me of her in every way. She just had this gentleness, this kindness to her that just put me in mind of Granny. Well, what I really loved about my grandmother is that she was a gentle, kind, down-to-earth, loving person. She put her whole life into raising her kids and her grandchildren. Her kids and grandchildren meant the world to her. They were number one. They came before anything. My grandmother would, when she was alive, she would risk being homeless just to see that her grandchildren had food on the table. That's the kind of person that my grandmother was. And she was one of those people that I just wish everyone in the whole world could have met. My grandmother, I know there's no such word as a perfect person, but my grandmother was perfect. And I say that, I don't say that lightly. My grandmother was just an amazing person. You had to be around her to understand it, but I remember going to the falls because my grandmother used to come and see my brother and I for years. Every other week, she would ride her bike or walk from Canada to see her grandchildren. And it took her on average about 3 hours one way, not to mention 3 hours going back home, so 6 hours round trip, just to see her grandkids. She did that for years. And my grandmother didn't let inclement weather stop her. Unless it was a major, major ice storm, my grandmother was there. That's the kind of person she was. She taught me a lot about love and family and how important it is to spend time with the people that you love. We meant the world to her. And when she passed away, unlike my mother, I didn't really have like sad tears. I more had happy tears because I know my grandmother lived an incredible life. So it was weird when she passed away. I responded, I reacted differently to her as opposed to my mother or somebody else that had an out-of-phase death, meaning that they died at a young age. She was 95. I felt that my grandmother lived an incredible life. And I was happy to see her cross over to be with the Lord. I don't want her to suffer anymore. But she was just an amazing person. So I remember as a child going to the falls, again because I love nature thanks to my grandmother, going to the falls and sitting with her for hours. Now remember, I was a kid. So, and this also, you know, carried over into my adolescenthood as well. I would sit on the bench with her for hours, have my arm around her, and just watch the falls for hours. And I just felt this inner peace just being with her. Very little discussion. A lot of our conversations were laconic. Didn't have much to say, but it was just the actions, the feeling that I experienced when I was with her. It was love in its most profound and purest form. And I'll tell you, I'll never forget her. She was an amazing woman, and she's taught me a lot about being a good person. This is probably why I spent so much time with my daughter, is because of my grandmother, the things that she conditioned me with. And I thank her for that. And I will always love my grandmother. I'll never forget her. And I just want to thank you, Granny, if you're listening in heaven. Thank you for giving me an incredible life. And I love you for that. And one day, I will see you again.